It was a muddy afternoon in the city, not long after a heavy rain had swept through the streets. Puddles dotted the roadside like broken mirrors. On a small wooden bench, seated quietly by the curb, was an old man, Papa Thomas. His clothes were faded with age, his slippers worn thin, but there was peace in his eyes. He had just finished sweeping the front of a modest shop and was resting before heading home. Then came the roar of a black Range Rover, tearing through the narrow road without a hint of caution. Tires sliced through the largest puddle in sight. A wave of brown, murky water flew up, splashing full force onto the old man. Soaked from head to toe, he gasped, wiping his face with trembling fingers. His shirt clung to him, dripping. His trousers, his slippers. Everything was soaked. The street went still. Gasps filled the air. "Hey, look what you did!" a woman cried out. But the Range Rover didn't stop. It rolled forward slowly, paused just a few feet ahead. The tinted window eased down, and a proud female voice shot out from the inside. "You shouldn't be sitting so close to the road, old man. This is not your village." Then the window slid back up, and the car sped off. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The crowd stood frozen, stunned by the cruelty they'd just witnessed. "Did she just say that?" a man muttered, jaw hanging. "Wicked woman," someone hissed. "Can't she even say sorry? This is too much. Papa Thomas is always kind. Why treat him like that?" But the old man only raised a weary hand and whispered softly, "It's okay. Leave her. Let God judge." Elsewhere, the woman in the Range Rover, her name was Vanessa, was just arriving at a luxury shopping mall. She stepped out of the SUV, stilettos clicking on polished marble, and took a moment to snap a selfie. She uploaded it with a caption that read, "Only the strong walk over the weak. Boss Queen." The comments rolled in. "Slay, Queen of Queens. Teach them." Vanessa smiled smugly. She didn't believe poor people had any value, any voice. They were just background to her success, stepping stones in designer heels. Back at home, Papa Thomas returned that evening with damp clothes and quiet grace. He stepped through the grand doorway of their beautiful mansion, a place filled with soft rugs, elegant furniture, priceless art. But for him, none of that meant much. On the couch, his son Bernard sat reading from a tablet. He glanced up. "Papa, what happened to your shirt? Another bad day?" Papa Thomas lowered himself gently onto a seat and shook his head. "Bernard, I saw the most rude woman today." Bernard sighed. "Papa, again? Why do you keep going out there? You don't need to sit on the roadside. You live in a mansion now. You have everything you need." The old man looked at his son, calm, steady. "I will never stop, Bernard. Not until I find a good woman for you." Bernard put the tablet down. "Papa, again with this?" "Yes," Papa Thomas said, voice firmer now. "You're 36. You need a wife. Not someone to just enjoy your wealth, but someone to build with you." Bernard ran a hand over his face and hesitated. "Papa, I have a girlfriend." The old man leaned in. "You do?" "Yes," Bernard replied. "I've been seeing someone." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to rush things. But now that you're bringing it up again, I'll tell you." Papa Thomas's eyes narrowed with interest. "So, who is she? Where's she from? What does she do?" Bernard gave a soft chuckle. "You'll meet her soon. She's very beautiful." The old man didn't smile. "Beauty is not everything, my son." "I know," Bernard said quietly. "But there's a problem." Papa Thomas tilted his head. "What problem?" Bernard exhaled slowly, eyes downcast. "She's rude, Papa. Very rude." The old man leaned back, listening closely. "She talks down to people. She's proud. She thinks everyone is beneath her. And worst of all, she spends money like it's a joke. I give her money. She buys expensive clothes, bags, shoes, just to show off." Papa Thomas shook his head, lips sealed in thoughtful silence. "So why are you still with her?" Bernard looked away. "I don't know. Maybe because she's beautiful. Maybe I thought I could change her. She's smart, and when she's calm, she can be sweet. But when she gets angry or feels insulted, she becomes someone else." The old man was quiet. "Does she respect you?" Bernard paused. "Sometimes." "Does she respect herself?" No answer. Papa Tomas sighed deeply. Bernard, I've been watching women all my life. I can tell who they are by how they walk, how they speak. You need someone who brings peace, not chaos. Someone who helps you grow, not waste what you've worked for. I know, Papa. You're right. Then bring her home. Let me meet her, just as she is. No special prep. I want to see her real self. Bernard nodded slowly. Okay, Papa. Maybe she can come over this weekend. Good, the old man said. But don't tell her anything. I want her to surprise herself. Bernard stood to get water, and the old man watched him, lovingly, but with worry deep in his heart. Bernard was smart, kind, successful. But love could make even the sharpest mind go blind. And so Papa Thomas continued his quiet mission, not to protect his son's wealth, but to protect his peace. The sun burned high again over the city the next afternoon. Outside a large supermarket, seated against a faded brick wall, was the same old man, Papa Thomas, dressed in simple clothes, a plastic bowl at his feet. He sat with the stillness of a man who had nothing to prove. He didn't beg. He didn't speak. He simply watched people pass. A few kind strangers dropped some coins. Most didn't notice him. Then came the engine sound, the sharp stop of a black Range Rover. Pulled up fast, music blaring. The door slammed open. Vanessa, dark shades over her eyes, stilettos sharp as her tongue, stepped out and caught sight of the old man. Her face twisted. You again? She barked. You, this old, dirty-smelling man. Why do you keep disgracing your generation like this? She didn't wait for a reply. Do you enjoy sitting here like a goat? Poor people like you have no shame. Papa Thomas said nothing. Look at your clothes. Look at your face, useless man. Maybe you were cursed. Still, he sat silent, unmoving. You're the reason this country is backward. You sit here waiting for help instead of dying quietly. She spat near his feet. You make me sick. Just then, the door of the supermarket swung open. A young woman with 2 grocery bags stepped out. She paused at the scene unfolding, her face tightening with shock. Then, without hesitation, she dropped her bags. Enough, she said. Vanessa turned, unimpressed. Who are you? Someone who still has sense, the woman replied firmly. Vanessa sneered. Another poor rat trying to feel important. You're insulting an old man for no reason, the young woman said, voice rising, calm but cutting. He exists, Vanessa hissed. That's what he did. Poor, dirty men like him shouldn't be outside. The woman stepped closer. He's old enough to be your father. So? Vanessa snapped. Is he my father? Look at him. Probably your father. Both of you look poor. The girl didn't flinch. Yes, maybe he is. But at least he's not empty like you. Vanessa laughed again, sharp and hollow. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my boyfriend is? I can get you arrested in 2 minutes. The girl didn't blink. Arrest me? For asking you to respect an old man? I'm rich, Vanessa shouted. I can do anything. No, the woman replied, cool and fierce. You're loud. Not rich in character. You're jealous of me. I'm clean. I'm classy. The girl chuckled. You're just noisy with lipstick. Nothing more. Vanessa's face shifted, rage brewing. You dare talk to me like that? Yes, because nobody ever taught you how to behave. You will regret this number. Vanessa screamed. You will, the girl answered, calm like a mirror. And then, quietly but powerfully, she pointed. Take your proud legs and leave. Vanessa stared, lips tight, fists clenched. Then, without another word, she spun around, stomped back into her car, slammed the door and sped away. The young woman turned to Papa Thomas, breath slightly heavy. Sorry, sir. He looked up at her with calm, grateful eyes. Thank you, my daughter. I couldn't let her talk to you like that, she said, voice softening. He nodded slowly. These days, not many people speak up like you did. She glanced around, then stepped closer. Papa, what's your name? Thomas, he said simply. People just call me Papa Thomas. She sat beside him. I'm Mary. He smiled. Nice name. She met his eyes. Papa, where do you stay? He hesitated. I sleep in an empty store at the edge of town. The owner lets me stay there. It's not much, but it keeps the rain away. Her face fell. Oh, Papa, I'm really sorry. He shook his head. Don't be. Life has its seasons. I may be poor, but I still have my peace. She studied him. You seem too wise to be out here. He gave a slow smile. Life teaches you wisdom when you have nothing. Mary looked away thinking, then turned back, eyes bright. I studied agriculture. I'm a graduate. It's been a year, no job. My parents are poor farmers in the village. He nodded slowly. You're trying. I was thinking, instead of just sitting here, maybe I can help you start a small farm. Even behind that store, just peppers, tomatoes, vegetables. Could give you food. We can sell the rest. Papa Thomas looked at her, surprised, unsure. You want to help me farm? Yes, Papa. I have nothing else, but I have strength. I can work. It's better than waiting. You'll eat fresh food. You can stop begging for coins. He sat still for a while, letting her words sink in. You're too kind. She shook her head gently. No, Papa. I just believe good people deserve help too. He looked at her again, longer this time. You hardly know me. She smiled. I know enough. You didn't say a word when that woman insulted you. That silence told me everything. He smiled slowly, eyes warm. You're different. I try, she said playfully. He nodded. I will think about it. Think fast. She grinned. We can start with a small basket of okra. Even that can change something. They laughed. Quiet, unexpected laughter. Mary stood, picked up her bags. Okay, Papa. See you tomorrow. He nodded. I'll be here. Good, she said over her shoulder. Don't go missing. And then she was gone just like that. A stranger who left behind something deeper than coins or kindness. Hope. As Papa Thomas watched her walk away, something stirred in his chest. He looked up at the sky and whispered softly, Lord, could she be the one? Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and cast long golden shadows over the city, Papa Thomas returned home. But this time something was different. There was a gentle lift to his step, a light in his eyes, a smile that wouldn't leave his lips. The heavy wooden door to the mansion closed behind him as he removed his worn sandals. Inside, the grand living room was cool, elegant, and still. Bernard, his son, sat on the couch, tablet in hand, absorbed in something he was reading. But he looked up the moment his father walked in. Bernard, the old man called softly. Yes, Papa? I met someone today. Bernard lowered the tablet. Who? Papa Thomas crossed the room and sat beside him. Bernard, he began, a rare spark in his voice. Today I met the most beautiful and respectful, well-mannered woman I've seen in all my years. Bernard raised his eyebrows. Really? Yes, and I'm not talking about hair or makeup or high heels. I'm talking about her heart. A clean heart. A woman with sense, with dignity, with courage. Bernard leaned forward, curiosity rising. What happened? The old man recounted it all. The second encounter with Vanessa at the supermarket, the insults, the cruelty. But then his voice softened. This time, Bernard, something different happened. A young woman stood up for me. Before I could even defend myself, she spoke up. She didn't shout like a market woman, no. Her words were calm, but powerful, full of fire and wisdom. And that proud girl? Bernard asked. She had no choice but to walk away in shame. Bernard didn't say anything. He just listened. Afterwards, this young woman sat beside me. No rush, no pride. She just sat and asked me if I was okay. Like I mattered. Bernard looked moved. What's her name? Mary. He repeated it softly. Mary. Yes, Papa Thomas said. I told her I was just a poor man with no home. She didn't laugh. She didn't judge. Do you know what she said? Bernard leaned in. She said, Papa, I can help you. Bernard blinked. She's a graduate? Studied agriculture. Yes, no job yet. Her parents are poor farmers too. But instead of complaining, she offered to help me build something. She said we could start a small farm together. Not to make money, but to eat well, to feel useful again. Bernard exhaled, eyes still on his father. Papa, you're not serious. I am very serious, the old man said. You know, I've always wanted to go back to farming. You told me to stop, that I was old. But Bernard, that's where I find peace. That's where I feel alive. Papa, we've talked about this. You don't need to farm anymore. You've done enough. You should rest, enjoy your old age. But rest without purpose, Papa Thomas replied, is just waiting to die. Farming is not just about food to me. It's about peace, patience, and strength. My body may be old, but my spirit is still strong. Bernard didn't answer. He stared at the ground, turning his father's words over in his head. This girl, Mary, Papa Thomas continued, voice low but firm. She reminded me of the man I used to be. She brought light into my heart today. And more than that, she gave me hope. Bernard rubbed his chin, slowly. I'm telling you this, Bernard, the old man said. Not because I need your permission, but because I've seen something rare. That girl is gold. She may not have money, but she has character. And that's what wealth can't buy. There was a pause, a long silence between them. Then Bernard spoke. Papa. Yes, I didn't want to say this, but my girlfriend is coming tomorrow. Papa Thomas leaned back slowly. And what do you want me to do with that information? Bernard hesitated. She wants to meet you. That's none of my business, Papa Thomas said coldly. Because today, I already met the kind of woman this world needs. The kind of woman who respected me, without knowing who I was. Your girlfriend may come tomorrow, but I already saw peace today. Bernard fell silent again. I've been watching you, my son, Papa Thomas added gently. You are rich, but you are alone. You have houses, but no joy. You have friends, but no peace. A wife should bring peace, Bernard. Not noise, not pride, not trouble. Bernard swallowed hard. I understand, Papa. No, you don't. Papa Thomas stood, slowly. You say you have a girlfriend, but I don't know her. I don't know where she's from, what she believes, how she treats people. You tell me she's beautiful, that's fine. But can beauty feed the heart? Bernard looked away, no longer able to answer. Let me tell you something, the old man said. When I was young, I wanted to marry the most beautiful girl in my village. My mother warned me. I didn't listen. That girl had the face of an angel, but the tongue of a lion. She nearly killed my soul. What happened? Bernard asked. She left me, Papa Thomas said. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. That was when I met your mother. She wasn't the most beautiful, but her heart was clean. Her hands were strong. Her love built our home. Bernard blinked back the weight of that truth. So you're saying Mary is? I'm not saying anything. Yet, Papa Thomas answered. I'm just saying, don't bring me noise tomorrow and expect me to smile. Because today, I saw peace. Bernard stood quietly and nodded. I respect that. Papa Thomas gave a faint smile. Good. I've done my part. Tomorrow we'll see. The next morning arrived quietly. Papa Thomas had already taken his bath. He sat in the living room dressed in clean, simple clothes, his face calm. But his heart, not so much. His thoughts were far from still. They wandered back to Mary. Her voice, her eyes, her words. Papa, I can help you. He smiled faintly to himself. Then came footsteps. Bernard entered the room and stood beside him. Papa. Yes, she's on her way. Papa Thomas nodded slowly, not looking up. Let her come. Moments passed. Then the sound of a car engine entered the compound, growing louder. A door opened, and the sharp, rhythmic click of high heels echoed against the floor. The front door swung open. Vanessa stepped inside. She wore her pride like perfume, strong and suffocating. Her designer handbag swung with each step. She looked around the mansion with half-amused approval. This place is nice, she said aloud. Not as modern as mine, but still okay. Then her gaze landed on the old man seated quietly on the couch. She froze. Her painted smile vanished. He didn't move. He just looked at her, calm and still as a lake before a storm. Bernard stepped forward, cheerful and unaware. Papa, this is... I know who she is. Papa Thomas interrupted, voice sharp as a blade. Vanessa's face changed instantly. You? She whispered. Yes. the old man replied. We've met before twice. Bernard turned, confused. Wait. You know my father? Vanessa's lips quivered. I didn't know he was your father. Papa Tomas stood slowly. You didn't need to know. You only needed to show respect. Bernard looked from one to the other, his smile gone. What is he talking about? Papa Thomas turned to him. This is the same woman who splashed mud on me at the roadside and told me I didn't belong. The same woman who insulted me in front of a crowd, called me names. Useless. Cursed. Said I should die quietly. Bernard stared at Vanessa. Is this true? I didn't know he was your father, she repeated, desperate. You didn't need to know. Bernard snapped. You insulted an old man twice. I thought he was a beggar, she cried. He's a human being, Bernard said firmly. Even if he was a beggar, is that how you treat people? Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't mean it like that. But Papa Thomas wasn't done. You didn't mean it, but you said it. You poured shame on me because I looked poor. You spoke like you owned the world. But now, the same man you humiliated is the father of the man you say you love. Vanessa opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Tell me, he asked. If you had known, would you have behaved better? Yes, she said, tears forming. Then you are not truly kind, he replied. Because real kindness does not depend on who is watching. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Please, sir. I'm sorry. Papa Thomas shook his head gently. You are not sorry for what you did. You are sorry because of who I am. Bernard's face had changed completely. No longer confused, no longer amused. You told me you were bold, he said to Vanessa. You said you loved me. I do, she whispered. No, he said. You love yourself. Because the woman who loves me would respect my father. Vanessa dropped her bag. Please, Bernard. He turned away, voice heavy. I've made a mistake. She walked slowly toward Papa Thomas. Please, forgive me. He looked at her, long, hard. Forgiveness is easy, he said. But trust is not. You had a chance to show who you really are, and you showed us. I can change, she whispered. He nodded. Good. Start by changing how you treat people who can do nothing for you. Vanessa picked up her bag and left. Silently this time. No insults. No pride. Just quiet retreat. The room returned to silence. Bernard sat beside his father. Papa. Yes. Mary. Yes. Where is she now? Papa Thomas smiled gently. She's coming to see me. At the supermarket tomorrow. The next morning, Bernard left the mansion alone. No chauffeur. No assistant. Just himself. And the weight of yesterday. The truth about Vanessa still echoed in his mind like thunder. The woman he had once loved had insulted his father. Not once, but twice. His heart felt heavy, confused, and quietly broken. He drove without purpose, letting the city blur past him. Eventually, he found himself on the outskirts, where the stores were simpler, the roads narrower, and the silence kinder. He parked near a narrow strip of land, unused, wild, forgotten. Then he stepped out, walked to a bench beneath a mango tree, and sat. For the first time in days, the breeze calmed his soul. That's when he saw her. Ahead, near the edge of the field, a young woman stood, bag of seeds in one hand, a small hoe in the other. Her hair was tied back, her clothes modest. No makeup, no heels, but something about her radiated warmth. She bent down, touched the soil gently, examined it, then stood again. Bernard watched in silence. Then she turned and noticed him. Good morning, he replied. She smiled and walked over. Are you from around here? No. Just passing by. Needed a break. She nodded. Me too. Well, not really a break. I'm planning to start a small farm here. Bernard looked at the land, then back at her. You? A farm? She laughed. Yes. Why not? Most young ladies I know won't touch a hoe, let alone start a farm. Bernard smiled. You're not like most ladies. I studied agriculture, she said. No job yet, but I have hands. And a strong back. He was impressed. That's rare. She dropped her bag and extended her hand. I'm Mary. He shook it. Bernard. They both smiled. She sat on a rock nearby. I'm trying to help an old man. He has no real home. He's kind, wise. He reminds me of my father. Bernard froze. Really? Yes. I met him yesterday. He was being insulted by a woman, and I couldn't keep quiet. So I stood up for him. Bernard's heart skipped. Mary continued. After the drama, I found out he doesn't even beg for money. He just sits, quietly watching the world. So I told him I'll help. We'll start a small farm together. At least he'll eat fresh food and feel useful. Bernard looked at her deeply. She didn't brag. She didn't perform. Her voice was like a soft current, clear, calm, certain. I wish more people thought like you, he said. She smiled. We're out here, just hidden. You live nearby? No. I take the bus from the other side of town. It's not easy, but I can't stay home doing nothing. Bernard nodded. I admire that. She looked at him. What do you do? He hesitated. Business. She raised an eyebrow. Business. The favorite Nigerian word. They both laughed. I won't ask too many questions, she said. You look like someone with a lot on his mind. Bernard smiled, quietly surprised. You're right. She stood and dusted her hands. I need to plant these seeds before the sun gets too hot. He stood with her. Can I help? She looked at his clean shoes. You? With your soft hands. I can learn. She smiled. All right, let's start with okra. And just like that, they began. Two strangers, two worlds, one small patch of earth, one shared rhythm. That afternoon, Papa Thomas sat in his usual spot near the supermarket. His gaze drifted toward the horizon, not searching for money or pity, but lost in thought, thinking of Mary. Her words, her fire, her heart. Then her voice pulled him back. Papa. He looked up. There she was, walking toward him with a small basket in her hands. She sat down gently beside him. I brought you something. He peeked inside the basket. Fresh vegetables. Boiled groundnuts. It's not much. Papa Thomas smiled. It's everything. Thank you, my daughter. May God bless your hands. Mary laughed softly. Amen, Papa. Then she leaned closer. Papa, I have good news. His eyes brightened. Tell me. I found land. It belongs to my uncle. I told him my plan. He agreed to let me use part of it. It's small, but we can start with okra and vegetables. He clapped his hands lightly. This is good. Mary beamed. So when are we going? But the old man paused. He shook his head gently. No, we can't go to the farm tomorrow. Mary looked confused. Why not? Because you are coming to my house tomorrow. Her eyes widened. Your house? But you said you sleep in a shop. He nodded slowly. Because I wanted to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing. Mary's eyes darted from him to the figure behind her. She turned. Bernard. You're his son? She asked, pointing. Bernard nodded. Yes, I am. Mary covered her mouth. I don't understand. Everything. It doesn't make sense. Papa Thomas took her hands gently. My daughter, I'm sorry for hiding the truth, but you've shown me your real heart. You helped me when you thought I was a poor, homeless old man. That is rare in this world. Her eyes welled. You were testing me? No, he said softly. I was watching. Life has taught me to observe. Many bow for the rich but spit on the poor. You did the opposite. You gave me food. You offered to farm with me. You made me feel seen. Mary turned to Bernard. And you? Bernard stepped forward. I didn't know either. I met you by chance. I never imagined you'd be the same woman my father kept talking about. She shook her head slowly, overwhelmed. This is too much. Papa Thomas smiled. But it's good. Because now no one can say, you were chasing money. You didn't know who we were. You followed your heart. Mary looked down. I didn't do anything special. You did, Bernard said gently. You were kind. To someone you thought had nothing. That's rare. That's powerful. Silence. Then Papa Thomas stood. Mary, come inside. You're home now. She blinked up at him. Are you sure? Bernard extended his hand. Yes, please. She took it, and together they walked into the house, not as strangers, but as something more. something real. The house was quiet now. Inside the grand living room, Bernard and Mary sat side by side. Papa Thomas had gone in to rest. The moment hung between them, gentle, but filled with unspoken emotion. Bernard turned toward her, nervous, but sure. "Mary," he said softly, "I don't want to waste time." She looked up, eyes open, waiting. "I know we just met, but I feel something strong. Something I've never felt before." Mary said nothing. She simply listened. "I love you," Bernard said clearly. "From the very first moment I saw you." She blinked. "I didn't just admire you. I didn't just enjoy your company. I loved your strength, your calmness, your confidence, and the fact that my father loves you too. That means everything." He leaned closer, voice lowered but steady. "Mary, I want to marry you. As soon as possible." She looked at him, stunned, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not going to lie. I love you too." Her hands trembled slightly in her lap. "From the first moment we met near the farm, I felt peace. I didn't know who you were, but I felt safe with you." He smiled. "So did she. If you truly want to marry me," she said gently, "then I will say yes." Bernard took her hand, firm and sincere. "Thank you. You are the most beautiful and intelligent woman I've ever seen. And now, you're going to be my wife." Mary blushed, smiling wide. But then her face grew serious. "There's something I must do first." Bernard tilted his head. "What is it?" "I have to go to the village. I must tell my parents. They live there. They must know." Her words echoed in his mind. "My parents live in the village." Bernard sat up straighter. "No," he said gently but firmly. "That cannot continue." She looked confused. "What do you mean?" "My parents-in-law cannot live in the village while I live in a mansion," Bernard said with conviction. Mary's eyes widened. "You would do that for them?" "Mary," he said, "I'm not just marrying you. I'm marrying into your family. And I must honor them like I honor my own father." Tears filled Mary's eyes. No one has ever said something like that to me before." He wiped her tears with the back of his hand. "You're worth it. And from today your struggle is my struggle. Your joy is my joy." News spread like fire through the city. Bernard, the quiet billionaire, is getting married. But not to a rich girl. Not a celebrity. Not a politician's daughter. He was marrying a simple, respectful woman named Mary. People whispered. Some smiled, others scoffed. But no one burned more than Vanessa. She heard the news at a spa, lounging in silk with friends. "What did you just say?" she snapped. "Bernard. He's marrying that village girl. It's all over the blogs." Vanessa's jaw clenched. Her hands began to shake. "He can't do this to me." She stormed out of the spa and into her car. Later that night, her rage reached its peak. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. A man known for doing dirty jobs. His name was Sko. "I want you to do something for me," she said coldly. "What is it?" Sko asked. "I want you to plant hard drugs inside Bernard's office. Once it's there, we'll alert the police. He'll be arrested, disgraced. The wedding will scatter." Sko said nothing. Vanessa continued, voice more vicious now. "And if you can finish the job, make sure that girl, that Mary, never wakes up. And that ugly old man she calls father-in-law, I want him gone. Forever." She hung up, satisfied. But she didn't know Sko knew Bernard. Years ago, Bernard had helped Sko's elder sister when no one else would. Gave her a job, paid their rent, paid hospital bills when their mother was dying. Sko sat in silence, haunted. "This is the man you want me to destroy?" he muttered to himself. "Never." The next morning, Sko called Vanessa again. Calm voice, but this time he recorded everything. "Tell me the plan again," he said. Vanessa laughed darkly and laid it all out. How to plant the drugs, who to bribe, how she wanted Mary and Papa Thomas dead. Later that day, Sko walked into Bernard's office. "Sir," he said, "I need just 10 minutes." Bernard looked up. "Do I know you?" "You helped my family once. I've come to return the favor." Sko hit play. Vanessa's voice filled the office. Her cruelty, her hatred, her laughter, her plan. When the recording ended, Bernard covered his face. "She Really wanted to destroy us. Sko nodded. You don't deserve that. I couldn't stay quiet. Bernard stood and shook his hand, eyes filled with gratitude. You saved us. By evening, the police moved in. Vanessa was arrested at a luxury restaurant, showing off her newest outfit. What is the meaning of this? She shouted. You're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and drug framing, said the lead officer. She screamed. She cried. But they took her away. In court, Vanessa wore a long black dress. She tried to act innocent. I don't know what they're talking about, she said. I never said anything like that. The judge gestured to the officer. The recording played. Her voice, her laughter, her evil. The courtroom went dead silent. Vanessa's mouth opened, but no words came. I was angry. I was drunk. It was the devil, she cried. The judge stared at her. The devil did not force you to speak. You planned evil, and would have succeeded, if not for one honest man. For jealousy, for pride, for wickedness. You shall face the law. 15 years in prison. No bail. Back at the mansion, Bernard told Mary everything. She was shaken, but thankful. That could have been the end of us, she whispered. Bernard pulled her close. But it's not, because good people still exist. People like Sko. People like you. That weekend, Bernard and Mary traveled to her village. He knelt before her parents. I want to marry your daughter, and from today, I want you to leave this village. Come live in the city. I have a house ready for you. You've worked too hard. It's time to rest. Mary's mother wept. Her father blessed Bernard with joy. 1 month later, the wedding was held. Simple, beautiful, overflowing with love. Afterwards, Bernard and Mary slipped away quietly for their honeymoon. They walked barefoot on the sand, hand in hand, laughing. I still can't believe this is real, Mary whispered. Bernard smiled. It's real, and it's forever. Sparkle's dear viewers, what lessons did this story teach you? Let us know in the comments. If this touched your heart, give it a thumbs up, share with someone you care about, and hit subscribe. Don't forget to turn on notifications, because these are the stories the world needs to hear.